Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Naguib Salleh. I'm a professor in the Department of Physiology, and I'm a moderator for the first section of today's Breakfast series. Today, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Muhammad Aizat Muhammad Zain. In brief introduction, he is a senior lecturer in the Department of Physiology since early last year. He has extensive experience in neuroscience research over 10 years and has been a postdoc in UM before. And his work is mainly focused on neuropsychiatric research. He will be talking on more than memorize from neuroscience perspective. So without any delay, I would like to invite Dr. Aizat to present his research talk. Over to you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everyone. So hopefully that everyone is in the good spirit, in the good mood, and hopefully that everyone already had their breakfast. If not, do not worry. So already prepare the food of thoughts, right? For today, it's a dessert, right? Because our today topic is about memory. So I would like to start my talk, right, by basically prompting with this question. That's I hope that everyone will try to think about it a moment. So, what is memory? Right. So, what is memory? I think that everyone will say the same thing. That memory is to remember, right? We want to remember all the things that we learn. We want to remember all the things that happened today and happened in the past, right? However, is that all? The memory is just to remember? Maybe if I'm rephrasing my question, right? Try to describe yourself for as long as you can, right? For example, like maybe you are 40 years, right? So 40 years of experience in this world, try to describe it as long as possible. I think that even the best person, right, the most articulate person, if for this question, if I want the answer right now, then maybe they can give like 10 minutes, right? The best. If I giving them like proper time to prepare, maybe 2 to 3 hours, right, to describe, to explain about themselves, their story. If have a lot of budget, maybe 3 days doing the seminar about themselves, right? Or maybe like the next question, right? Or describe all the things that you can remember learning in your medical school or learning when your works as a medical doctors of a medical staff, right? With all the biology system that you have learned so far, how long that you can describe about it, right? So like 40 years of experience, you can come down like maybe 3 days maximum, right? So definitely that memory is not about only to remember. And so it's not only to acquire the information and trying to retrieve it back, right? But actually there is another outcome that are more important, right? That are more fundamental, which is the memory is to change your behavior, right? Basically, the behavior is how we act, right, upon something based on all the information that we have in our memory. So the memory will shape our behavior, right? And the behavior will update our memory. So it's basically a continuous loops across our life of learning and memory and act. Okay? And our memory also have like different types, and the long-term memory also have a different type. So we will cover this in the another slide. But before that, right, I would like to go, right, maybe like some famous people, right, what they say about memory. So Albert Einstein said that never memorize what you can look in the books, right? So basically that if the information is easy to get, so do not need to memorize. And nowadays that we have the AI, right? So we can prompt with a specific question and gets the specific answer. It's just that we need to double check which either the answer is reliable or not. And that's the problem with the AI, right? The Thomas Fuller, which is the English churchman, said that, and he is on point when he said that we all have forgot more than what we remember. Okay, so this one I will explain it later. And Enrico Fermi, right? So say that if I could remember the name of all these particles, I will be a botanist, right? So he is a physicist, right? Popular physicist. Okay, so I want to go to explain about our brain, right? So our brain is the most complicated, most fascinating organs in our body, right? So this 2 kilogram brain tissue, right? It's very special, right? It's fully protected by our skull, right? And then it's floating in our cerebrospinal fluid, right? So it's the only tissue is like this that have this characteristic, and it made up from 800 to 100 million billion actually the functional cell neurons, right? So these neurons are basically that you can firing the electrical signal and then releasing the chemical buzzing, right, like that, and communicating with each other. So these neurons are communicating with each other and influencing with each other. And it also have the glial cell is supporting this mechanism. And if we do the histological studies, right? So we cut our brain section by section, and then we stain with a dye, right? So we can see like in this picture. So this one is the mouse brain, right? So we can see the cerebellum, the cortex, the hippocampus, the olfactory bulb, right? So if we zoom in, right? So this one is the nasal staining, right? So we can see that it's a quite confusing structures, right? Because our brain are not made up from the different type of tissue, such like any other tissue. For example, like kidney, lung, right? So over there, the histological section by staining by the H&E, it can differentiate it. It's much more organized. However, your brain, right, are composed of a billion of neuron and glial cells, so it's less organized. If you want to see the neuron, so you need to stain, is for example, like this special stain, the Golgi staining. Right, so we can see this, the black masses, right? If we zoom, then we can see a beautiful picture of our neurons, right? So this one, because the Golgi staining is a silver staining that will basically stain individual neurons, right? So in here that we can see our neurons, cell bodies, the axon, the dendrite, and if we zoom more, then we can see more clearer picture of our dendritic spine, right? And the dendritic spine is the one that are responsible and involved in the memory and learning. So the dendritic spines will mix with the axon terminal from the next neurons, right? From the second neurons, right? So this one will form the synapse, right? So when we form a new memory, right? What actually happens is that the synaptic connection between two neurons will get stronger, right? And in the late phase, right, of the potentiation, it will basically our neuron will growing a new synapse. All right. So we can say that if you learn something from this in this breakfast, right? So your brain already changed after you learn this and before the breakfast. So it's quite interesting. Why do we forget, right? And we forget because of this synaptic connection between the two neurons are getting weakening. If the new memory is the strengthening of the synaptic connection. The forgetting is because of the weakening of the synaptic connection. However, forget is a normal process in the memory formation, and actually it's a necessary process because during the day, right, we can say that we learn all the thing, right, during the daily task, right? So minutes, hours, and days, right? So we forming like a lot of synapse. So the forgetting is basically is make a space for this new synapse to be formed. Okay, so it's a necessary process. So do not feel bad if you forget. So it's basically we need it. We need to forget. Okay, so maybe we go a little bit on the psychology part, actually how we learn, right, and memory. So we learn through our five senses: sound, sight, smell, right? And this one will be registered in our sensory cortex, right? For brief second, the visual input, it will stay for 1 second, the auditory input for 5 seconds. The example is like when a kid's, right, focusing and watching the food, right? However, the parent don't like it, right? And then like lecturing the kids, right? Their kid, and then however the kid are not paying any attention, right? Until the parent get upset and then say that why you are not listening to me, right? And then the kid actually can trying to recall back 5 seconds what the parents said. So this one is our sensory memory. And to convert the sensory memory, right, to the short-term memory, is that what you need to do is to pay attention. So now the information is in your short-term memory, which basically your prefrontal cortex responsible for it, right? And you can practice more, right? Then you will convert into this long-term memory, right? So this one is the hippocampus and your cerebral cortex, and you can store your information from minutes to hours to days to indefinitely, right? For the long-term memory. Okay, and we have like another model, which is the working memory model, right? So the working memory model is slightly different, right, compared to this model. So the working memory model is like that when I'm giving the example, right, please remember these three numbers: 31, 15, and 10. 31, 15, 10. 31, 15, and 10. So these three numbers are basically that you're holding it in your short-term memory. However, if I'm saying that, please calculate 31 plus 15 minus 10. So now you need to hold this number and you need to do something with it, right? Because the working memory is basically it will deal with this executive function. And executive function, you have this inner voice, phonological loop, and also this visual sketchpad, right? So your inner voice is basically like, for example, right? So I'm basically 31 plus 15, right? And so you need to add, so how much is it? So that's why it's your inner voice. The visual sketchpad is like, the good example is like, when I'm asking you like how to show me how to go into the trauma PPM, right? From the dean office. So your brain can basically remap, right? This the map, right? How basically to show the direction how to go to this trauma. Okay, so basically this one is the memory model, right? And our long-term memory also have a different type, right? So it's been divided into the declarative and non-declarative. Declarative is also known as the explicit memory or conscious memory. So it basically that the memory that we are aware. And we are aware in the what actually happens in our daily life, all the event that happen in our daily life and all the past event, right? So this one is what we call as the episodic memory. And for the memory that about the facts, right? About the name, about the word are basically what we call the semantic memory. And these two memory are basically the medial temporal lobe, and that encephalon are responsible for it. But we also have the non-conscious, right? We are not aware about this memory, right? For example, like procedural memory or motor skill. So like when you learn how to ride a bike, right? So for the first time during the learning time, so it's not very good, you fall many times. However, once you got it, then it become automatic. So it's similar with the driving, with the writing, right? So this one, the one that responsible is the cerebellum. And then we also have the different type, all the different type of the non-declarative, like priming, the Pavlov dog study. This one is very popular, and habituation and sensitization. Right. So there are many different type of the long-term memory. And hippocampus are basically the region of the brains that are responsible to convert our memory from the short-term memory into the long-term memory. So it's act as a gateway, right? As a gateway to store into the long-term memory. So you can imagine like hippocampus is like a door for you to enter into the long-term memory room from your short-term memory. Okay, maybe a little bit of the case study. So here is basically is a worst case of the amnesia. Is a Cliff Wearing's case study, right? So Cliff Wearing was a professional musician and musicologist in the UK. So he developed a severe brain infection which caused the widespread damage to his medial temporal lobe, which located the hippocampus, and some part of the frontal cortex also been damaged. Right, so he developed this severe anterograde amnesia, which means that he unable to develop a new long-term memory. Right, so basically that his memory are stick in the short-term memory, so it can only last for 7 to 30 seconds. So he is known as the people who live at a moment, because his memory is like this. When he pay attention to a particular thing, so he can hold for 7 seconds, right? Around 7 seconds. And then after the second, then his brain will be reset back. Okay, he also have this profound retrograde amnesia. So he lost most of his past, right? So many people he don't remember anymore, right? Only the fragment remains. However, he still preserve the procedural memory. He still can play piano beautifully and conduct the music, right? So that's mean that his procedural memory are still intact. And the interestingly that he still preserve the emotional memory. So he recognized and can show the strong emotion toward his second wife. His first wife already forgot, right? However, he remember his second wife. Okay, can we learn memory about animal? Yes, and in fact that we learn so much about memory using the animal, right? So this one is quite related with my study. So here is basically the picture of my Morris about the Morris waterman. So it's basically a big pool, right? And we fill with the water and make it opaque, and there is a hidden platform which the mice need to learn how to reach the hidden platform, right? By using the visual cues, right? So this one is testing for the spatial learning and memory. Over the time, over the learning period, so we can see that the mice, if they learn, right, then they will get to the hidden platform faster, okay? And we also have the radar arm maze, right? So these radar arm maze are basically to test the working memory function. And in some of the diseases, for example, like schizophrenia, the bipolar disorder, and depression, right? These working memory are being damaged, right? So we can test these two in the animal. Or if you want to test the social recognition memory, so you can use this 3-chamber test, right? So basically, the animal, basically it will spend more time with this a new mouse compared to the family mouse. Or if you do not want about the social recognition, so you can use the object, right? And so this one is the novel object recognition test. Okay, and actually that they have like so many actually, so many tests that we can do with the animal. Okay, so I would tell my hadith to say that doctor look after me, but basically I look after myself more, right? I don't overeat, I don't develop big sponge, I do a little bit of exercise. At the same time, I believe that if you don't work, you will decay, and the decay process is not using, is through not using your faculty, not using your brain, and not using your body. So it's quite interesting because he's on point that it will basically our brain will be decay if we are not using it, if we are not stimulating it. Okay, I will end my talk by this quote by the Imam Shafi'i, which who is the Islamic jurisprudence, right? So he actually memorized the Quran, right? At the age of 7 years old, right? So the Quran is not thick, however, is quite a lot too, right? By the age of 7 years old, he already memorized it, and he also memorized the hadith, 2,000 hadiths by the age of 10. So he is quite have a spectacular memory. However, this word is coming from him, right? He said that knowledge is not what is memorized, knowledge is what benefits, right? So basically that the knowledge, right, is what benefit to you, right? So it's changing your personality, it's changing your behavior, right? And if your behavior change, it will even benefit others people too. If, for example, like if you're a doctor, by knowledge, by the power of knowledge, by the power of memory, you can serve people better. And by that, I thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Aizat, for a nice talk. So now I'd like to open the session to any question for like 7 minutes. If you have any question, you can type in the chat box. Do you have any questions to Dr. Aizat? Yeah. Okay, just you don't have, just I want to ask one, what do some old when people they get old, they can remember the long uh, the, experience, but they cannot remember the something like has they lost the short memory. What is the reason for that?
Okay, so basically, right, when we get old, right, we less paying the attention, because paying attention is basically you need to put like some efforts, right? If you pay attention, then you will convert the sensory memory into the short-term memory, right? So however, it's quite normal, right? When we are doing something, right? We are doing some things, and then we focusing too much on that stuff that we don't remember, like the side job that actually like where we put our keys, right? Because we are focusing too much on, for example, like to finish the main task, right? I think that actually what happened, right? Even when we get old, so actually we spending less time to pay attention to all of this. However, it's quite worrying too, because it's not like only at the old people, right? Because right now that we have like phone, right? We have phone, even the children already like look up at the phone. So they are being overstimulated. They are being over focusing on that one particular thing, right? So they will shut down the environment, what actually happening. So that's one, actually it will make our memory to be less we will focus on that particular thing. However, we will shut down everything else.
Okay. All right. So, is there any other questions from the audience? So, if not, I would like thank you so much for your time of joining the talk by Dr. Aizat. So, I will now pass the session to my colleague from Primary Care Department. Over to you. Thank you so much.